as neighbors. Dynasties were fighting each other. The western side was fighting the eastern side. But on the day the war started, they united and fought the colonizers as one. Which means there was a system that we used that made us set aside our differences to fight for a common goal.
Okay.
If we could achieve it in 1836, before there was a degree, before there was a diploma, before there was a certificate, if we could achieve it then, for the nation to come together and fight for something that is common to all of us, why can't we do it today with all the knowledge that we claim to have?
Okay. You also mentioned that Zimbabwe is impeding development in the southern region when you were launching NPC. Can you shed more light on this, on what you meant, given that right now in South Africa there are xenophobia attacks, Zimbabweans are being chased away, Zimbabweans are being killed? Maybe what solutions would you proffer to this problem?
I'll give you an example of a village. There was one house that could afford to have tea in the morning during my times, and the other one couldn't. Young men from the house without would always sneak into the house with something, and they would have tea there. When you come back to your mother's house, she would beat you up. She would say, "Wangoenda kunokwata." It's not different from what is happening now. The people are going to South Africa or elsewhere in the world because we don't have enough to give to our people. But because South Africa itself is getting to a point where the people in there are not having enough as well, we become a reason for their problems. And we are a reason for their problems. Because if we had adequate services in this country, in whatever name you might call them, there would be no need for someone to say, "I no longer want to live in this country, I want to go to South Africa." There would be no need to occupy that space. But if we had enough of what we have, and South Africa had enough, we would visit each other as friends, and no one would worry about someone taking something from his house back to his house. So this whole problem, for me, is not because South Africans don't like other Africans. They do. They are also faced with impending poverty, or poverty amongst themselves. We have poverty amongst ourselves. So for me, the starting point is, the reasons for all those xenophobic attacks is poverty. Poverty that is creeping into African countries. Yes, we are where we are. South Africa is where it is, but it's moving, in my own opinion, in the direction that we've moved in. They will not get to where we are, in my own opinion. They've got an industry that is organized, an academic system that is organized, a research structure that is organized, some kind of governance which they try to follow. Yes, here and there they are failures. Where they are human beings, they are failures. But they are trying a lot. The Zondo Commission is an example of them trying to follow a particular system. I am not saying I support a certain side within that commission. But I am saying that the process, the fact that they are doing that process, they are going through that process, which means they realize there is need for certain due processes to be followed for things to get back to normal.
Okay.
We have reached a stage where that doesn't happen as much as it should. For example, if someone is killed through an accident, a vehicle accident, and there are no actual reasons to explain why it has happened, there should be a commission of inquiry. It happens everywhere. It's an ordinary person.
Yes.
You need a commission of inquiry. Why has it happened? What might come out is that the road is designed very badly, and the engineers must be called to work. There is recklessness. Something must happen. In other words, we need to investigate every occurrence that should not occur for us to be called people. Because each one of us represents humanity in our own different ways. So if we leave things unattended that should be attended, then we'll get to where we are. And we might even become worse. So in other words, I am saying the governance system, the way things should be done, the investigation that should be done, whether it's at a family level, whether it's at a dynasty level, they must be done as they used to be done before. People used to sit and be judged. That's how our totems changed. Someone was found guilty and was asked to move away from that area to go and live elsewhere. and he created his own dynasty.
Okay.
It's because a process had been followed where he'd been found guilty, and a solution proffered according to systems that existed at the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Zimbabwe is currently faced with so many challenges and so many problems. Right now, prices are soaring high, fuel prices, food prices, unemployment. What do you think is needed to be done to be able to turn all this turmoil around?
The first thing that we need to realize is that even within a family, if you stop working, if only one man is working, going into the forest, bringing in something, going into the country, bringing in something, you are creating poverty. And there is something that has happened. We have stopped going to work. Yes, we see people going to work every day, but how many are going? And why are those so few? If you go into the industrial areas, you'll find buildings that are literally closed. People have stopped production. So the first thing that should have happened is not to appoint a few experts and to tell them, in order to reopen industry, you must do this. Is to do a thorough investigation. Why have we come to where we are? Why is that company closed? What it means to me, without a report in front of me, is that the conditions for business are not what they should be. I'm not talking about after 2018. I'm talking about after the time when things started to go down. A government must investigate why we're employing less than a third of the people we employed in 1999. Because I think that was the height of our development. Even in terms, when you look at our roads, when you look at everything, we reached our peak in 1999, 2000, and then we started sliding. You can give various reasons, like the land reform, the war in the DRC, and other things that had taken place before that. You can talk about the gratuities given to all veterans as a reason, but I don't think that's the reason. When we gave those liberation fighters, which is what I prefer to call them, not war veterans, the liberation veterans, when we gave them that money, they deserved it. But had we prepared sufficiently for that occurrence? And had we prepared sufficiently for what would happen afterwards? In other words, we must give time to whatever we do. So for us to go back to where we were, we need to find out what is it that needs to happen for our industries to open. Yes, new ones are starting, but they are not adequate. We are still importing more than we are exporting. We are still producing less than we need for our own consumption. But sometimes we have to export because of need, because we need foreign currency, not because what we are producing is adequate for this nation.
Okay.
You see that? So we need to go back. We need to go back to the people who run businesses, to people who want to run business like our young people, and make them and put them in a place where they can have capacity to start enterprises. And let those that are running right now have capacity to continue to operate at higher efficiencies. I don't think we are a very efficient country in terms of our production.
Okay.
That's why our prices are higher than those in South Africa. That's why people have got to go to South Africa. Today, I think you might have to go to South Africa to buy bread because it's much cheaper. I know bread is 50 cents in some countries around us. It's less than $1, but we are now at $2.
$2, yes.
Yeah. Whatever it is that they are doing that makes them produce at lower cost is what we must find out, so that we can follow the same path.
Okay.
Is it our wage structure? Is it our management structure? Is it our education system? I personally don't think the education system, yes, it has a bearing, in the sense that, for example, I think we are producing more people with degrees than those with hands-on experience. I think that's where we started to go wrong. The journeymen are much less than they were in 1980. We have less journeymen today than we had in 1980, 85, 1990. But those are the producers, not people with the degrees. Everyone with a degree thinks he must become a manager. They are not hands-on. So how do we move forward with people who must be in suits every day and expect to eat at the end of it? So I think the starting point is our economy.
Okay.
Our economy must be reshaped. Our means of production must change.
Okay.
Our laws must also change here and there. I don't think the laws are to blame so much. I think it's the governance system.
Okay.
When you don't follow up on what your industry is doing, when you receive a report on your desk and are content with it, you have a problem. If you want to know whether the roads are bad, get off the plane and drive on the roads. so that you can actually see that the roads are not as good as they should be.
Okay, maybe to turn back to the subject of elections, general elections next year. What do you think is the role of the youth, given that we have over 50%, actually over 60% of the people in Zimbabwe? You actually mentioned that we need to make sure that the youth are employed, they own businesses, they become part and parcel of the production for the economy to move forward. What do you think is the role of the youth in next year's election?
Maybe just to say, I think those that are in the age group of being able to vote are about 40%. 67% is the total youth, including the young child. I want to look at this 40. We make so much of the word youth and so forth and so forth. It's not what the age is. It's what they are able to do. It's what you can do for them. They can vote for you, but if you can't do anything for them. For us, we have seen it necessary to have a section that deals with youth development and employment creation. We have not had a lot of employment for most people living in universities. Some of them have 10 years of having a degree, but without any experience. So we need to develop our youth in a small way so that they are able to be employed.
Okay.
Because you can still go and look for a job, but you have no experience, you're 10 years. I end up lying for you to say you were working at my company. But I know I am lying. When you go there, you don't perform. So we need to develop our youth so that they can become employable. Okay. That's the starting point. And the government have got the system. You've got ZIMBABWE, the Zimbabwe Manpower Development Fund. I think it can be tailored and restructured and be redirected to see that people who did not get employment somehow get employed, because the employer is not willing to get them without any experience. Let's help each other with the employer so that the employer is able to take them without experience. They get paid a little with the assistance of government. A bit of it comes from government, a bit comes from the employer. Okay. They get enough experience, maybe after a year or two. An intelligent person, in my own opinion, after a year in a job, should be able to know most of the things. Yes, we can then go to 5, right? But because we are trying to limit the number of people who apply for a certain job. But within a year or two, you are done. When that happens, after 5 years, you see how a business is run. You've been in it, you know you must be able to keep track of your accounts, you must be able to keep track. They are able, at that point, after 5 years, to do projects of their own, to look after themselves. But I want to avoid the word project. At that point, you can then assist them to start their own companies. Because without new companies, this country is not going anywhere. When we rely on these old, mature companies, don't expect to create any additional employment which can reduce our employment rate. No, they have matured. They will replace the one who has died. They will replace the one who has retired. But we want new people. The only way you can, or one of the most effective ways, I don't like the word the only thing, the most effective way of making sure that we grow our employment is to make sure that there are new companies being formed. What is the advantage of new companies? They start with the latest technology. They don't have to retool. They are starting with the latest technology, so they move forward very quickly. If you have got 10,000 of them across the country, which is possible, and they are employing each one 10 people, all right? You have 100,000 people employed overnight, and these are small companies. So our survival is going to be in small companies that are more mobile, more agile, because they can change very quickly to the environment. In any case, these are the educated guys. They can be more mobile. Those old companies, yes, let's continue to keep them going, because that's where our experience is going to come from.
Okay.
Yes. So for me, youth development is more important than telling them that vote for us gives them a few dollars, they start a chicken project and so forth. After a year, I can tell you, if you go back, all those projects will be gone. They were just for an election. In other words, let's stop planning for an election.
Okay.
Let's plan for the future of this country.
Okay.
An election will come and go.
Okay. So maybe as we draw